In today's video, I'm going to take you through a day in the life of what I do as a ghostwriter. Coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue, where we learn how to make money, save money, and live well in retirement. Well, as a lot of you know, my main job that funds my YouTube channel and everything that I am learning to do in order to make money and reach my retirement goals is being a ghostwriter. Now, I get a lot of questions on ghostwriting, and I actually have a video up already about the basics of ghostwriting, and I'll link it here. But I still get a lot of questions about, well, what do you do all day? This isn't really going to be one of those vlog style videos. I'm basically just going to tell you what I do. Honestly, every day's different, and that's good in my viewpoint. I'm not doing the exact same thing every day, but there are certain things that I do just regularly. So we're going to go over how that works. Now let's start off to say I have been a ghostwriter for more than 15 years. I've been doing it a very long time. So I have a lot of experience in what works and what doesn't. However, what works for me may not be what works for you. So we're just going to go over what I do. You may do it a little differently. Nothing wrong with that. But I know from all that experience where the problems might arise. Now be sure and hang around for the end of the video because I'm going to do a little Q&A at the end. There are a few questions about, how long does it take to write a book and those sorts of things that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. So be sure and stay tuned till the end. Now, when I say not every day is the same, that's absolutely true, even though some days are quite similar. Normally, during the course of any given week or month, I'm rotating 3 to 4 projects. Not always. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but usually it's somewhere between 3 and 4. And those projects will be in various stages of completion. Maybe one is just started and I'm just interviewing the client, gathering information, figuring out the outline. Maybe one, we've already started doing some chapters. We're doing revisions on some of those early chapters. We're talking about the remainder of the content. Maybe on one, we have actually finished the first draft and we're looking into editing or moving content around, or is this enough or is it not enough? And we're going through those ideas. And then maybe on the fourth one, it's in production. It's in layout. We're designing covers. We're figuring out what's going to happen once it's published. Are they going to market it themselves? Do they want to hire a marketing firm? Do they want it for general distribution? We make all those decisions in post-production. Now, just because I write a book doesn't mean I help with production. So, there's various stages and various options for different contracts. But I always usually have several in the mix somewhere. The first thing I usually do is sit down and glance over YouTube channel, email, social media, glance. And it's usually just a few minutes, less than 20 minutes usually. I don't do a lot of responding unless something is critical or urgent. I don't do a lot of putting fires out again unless it's critical or urgent, because I really want to focus on my morning time. Now, there are usually 2 days a week that I will focus on YouTube. That be creating content, filming videos, editing videos, uploading. And so it's 2 days a week, and it varies what days those are. It might be a Monday and Wednesday. It might be a Wednesday and Thursday. It might be a Friday and Saturday. It just depends. But usually at least 2 days a week. I upload 3 videos a week, and that takes time. And those are usually long days, especially with the editing. They're long days. But I always set aside at least 2 days a week for that. Now, as far as the writing, as soon as I check email, I will start writing. A lot of people have this idea, well, if you're going to write a book, well, you spend most of your time researching, and then you write it, and the writing doesn't take that long. Backwards. That is absolutely backwards. When you are a ghostwriter, the more productive you can be and the more you can get done, the more you get paid, because you're generally paid a set amount on the contract. So it doesn't matter if you spend 10 hours doing something or 100 hours doing something, you get paid the same. And so as a ghostwriter, I found out really quickly to write the book first and make notes of statistics, research, or things I needed to know as I went, and then go and research, but only research those things I actually need to use. I will usually write until about 10 o'clock, 9:45, 10 o'clock, and then I take a break. I go out to the deck, I get another cup of coffee, and, I go and just have some peace, some quiet, and it's always quiet. I love quiet. I find it very energizing. And so I will just go and breathe the clean air and allow my mind to escape for a minute. And that is really important. When you are pushing through, even on a project that you have got to finish, it is not productive, at least from my experience, and I have a lot of it, to try to force yourself to be productive and do, 1,000 words an hour, whatever it is, whatever your goal is, it doesn't matter. It is way more productive to rest. You will write faster and better if you rest frequently. I cannot stress that enough. And just think about, like The Office, okay? Not the show where you work. When you go into the office, when you actually think about how much time you spend doing productive things, it's usually very small. And anyone who's ever worked in an office environment can tell you that. You get interrupted constantly. People are talking to you constantly. They're wanting to do meetings. You got to be here. You got to be there. And you're on a set schedule no matter how productive you feel. You work from 8 to noon. You take off at noon for lunch. You come back at 1. It's just a very set schedule. The cool thing about ghostwriting is that if I have an incredibly productive day, I may write 5 or 6 hours. I don't do that very often, but it happens. If I'm really going with the flow, hey, great. And I get 2 days work done in less than the 8 hours most people spend at work. And so it's very productive. But you have to know yourself, and you have to understand the value that rest provides, especially when you're doing something like writing. Now, after my 2 or 3 hours are up, it's usually about 11:30. I'll run errands, like post office, whatever has to be done, run errands, grab some lunch, be back at the house usually by 1:30, something like that, and start doing my other tasks. Most of my client appointments and calls, and I talk to most of my clients via Zoom or just phone, if they don't do Zoom, and some don't. But that is how we communicate. I rarely ever meet a client in person. Rarely ever in 15 years. About 75% of my clients are international. They're in Australia. They're in England. They're in Europe. They're in Canada. I very rarely meet one in person. And that's not unusual. So don't let that stop you from thinking you can do this by thinking, well, I'll have to go meet all these people. Nah, not even a deal. People are used to working remotely. They like working remotely. As long as you're productive, it can be done really easily. So I speak with clients in the afternoons, and I usually talk with every client once a week. So I'll have a call most days. Some days I'll have 2 calls. A lot of those, the clients want them in the afternoons or evening, depending on where in the world they are, or on weekends. Most of these people, like I said, are business people. They're busy. They're working. So we try to schedule calls when they can do it. So actually right now I have calls. I'll have 2 calls on Sunday. There's one client that I have currently that is in Australia, and 7 o'clock in the morning her time before she goes to work is 3 o'clock the previous afternoon my time. But how you schedule things is usually your choice. Most clients don't want to talk in the middle of the morning, which is great for me, because that's my most productive writing time. I am going to be putting up some courses on Skillshare and Teachable both. Some are project-based for Skillshare. Others are full courses on how to ghostwrite for Teachable. As soon as I have those up, I'll put a link below. But really, there's way too much there to include in one video. So let's go to the Q&A right quick. And one of the main questions I get a lot is, how long does it take to write a book? And of course, what no one wants to hear, but what is the truth, is it depends. I have written a full book in as little as 30 days. That book actually ended up on Jay Leno. And it was a funny book. It was a great book. I have taken as long as a year and a half to write a book. When you are working with a client, it is really up to them how fast you move. Writing a book in itself, the actual writing portion of it, once you understand how to put a book together, is not difficult. It's just putting your butt in the chair and getting it written. It's not difficult. But getting the information you need from the client, keeping them on track as far as calls, as far as just giving you what you need, that can be the difficult part. Also, when you get toward the end of the book, they have to have time to review every single thing, make changes, review it again. Then when you go into production, you go over that book so many times. And many of these clients have limited time. So a lot of times that's where a project can really bog down. But in real numbers, you can think of it like a bell curve. Okay? There's probably 30% of clients that you work with, where you can get a book written in 30 to 90 days. So there's a certain percentage there. They'll already have stuff for you they can just hand. Maybe they do speeches. They're on the speaking circuit. Maybe they already have programs that they present and they want a book based on those programs. Well, they already have the information. They just hand it to you. Maybe they started a book themselves and they already have like 100 pages. Well, that's much easier. But here again, when you look at the bell curve, that's about 30%. Now, at the top of that bell curve, between 30 and 70%, most of those people will write a book somewhere between 4 and 8 months. Most people, it's right at 6 months, right around there. The vast majority of clients, it's right at 6 months. Just for the writing, just for the first draft portion, 6 months. And the last 30% are the ones who it takes a year to a year and a half just to get the writing portion done. And that is really too long, but there are a number of reasons that happens. Number one, they get very busy. Something comes up, their business takes off, whatever, and the book gets put on the back burner. Other times, it might be where the client has started writing the book, but then they really wanted to change the focus of the book. And then sometimes you have clients that just lose interest in the project. That's all it is. They just lose interest. There are a number of people who start things and never finish, and that's just the truth of it. Next question. How do you know how to put a book together? Over time, over the 15 plus years, but early on, I developed a formula for how to put a nonfiction book together. Most of what I write is nonfiction. Almost everything I write for clients is nonfiction. I don't ever ghostwrite fiction. I do write fiction myself, but I don't ghostwrite fiction. Not because I couldn't, but because there's a whole lot less money in it. That's just the truth of it. It's a lot better financially to write nonfiction, so that's what I do. Well, when you're writing nonfiction, especially a business book, a plastic surgery book, those generally fall under the titles of self-help or audience help, even if they're not self-help. The audience is learning something. They're getting something from that book. They're learning about their business. They're learning about their expertise. They're learning something. So the vast majority of books I write are some sort of teaching component for the person who's reading it. And these books follow a particular formula. It's tried and true, and it works very well. And so that's what I use. Having said that, every book is different. So there's always a few little adjustments you make. But once you get the hang of it, it becomes very simple to know exactly how the book's going to go together quickly. When I do an outline, and usually when I do an outline, it's 1, maybe 2 pages at the most. And by the time I do an outline, I know exactly what information I need from the client for exactly which chapter, where it's going to go, where the holes might be, and any issue I can take care of from the beginning. That has come with years of doing it wrong. And the last question, and I just got asked this by a client, is after you've worked on a book for a year, how do you just let it go? How do you just let it go and let someone else run with that book? Well, you know, it's one of those things that comes down to mindset. You are writing a book, you are helping a client. It is not your book. It is not your ideas. It is not your thought process. And so when it comes time to let it go, as you write more and more books, ghostwrite books, it becomes easier and easier. It's not that you're less attached. It is that you have seen over the years, and I have seen this, when a book comes out, even though you tell that author how it's going to change their life, they really don't understand. And part of the most exciting aspect of being a ghostwriter is seeing the author get that book and seeing their lives instantly change. And the thing is, they don't change as a human being, but everybody around them does. They go from just regular person to, oh, that's the person who wrote a book. Oh, I know them. When they didn't even care who you were before. You know, books have an incredible ability to lift someone above the rest of the competition. That's why so many of these business people write the book. But they still don't realize all the doors it will open for them once they have that book. Doors to media, doors to seminars, doors to speaking engagements, you know, doors for their own programs or their own products. And while you can tell them, they don't really know. And once they write a book, most of these authors will write another book and another book because they've seen the benefit of it. The vast majority of clients that I work with today come through referrals from clients I had 10, 15 years ago. I'm still getting referrals from those clients. In fact, that's the only way I take clients is through referrals. Now, if you've liked this video, please hit subscribe, click the little bell, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.